You are at war with yourself and likely don't realize it. Your thoughts, beliefs, habits, and actions often sabotage you. Are they helping you overcome adversity or setting you up for failure? To win this battle, you must connect with your inner warrior. We all have a warrior within us, one that strengthens our resolve and helps us to rise to meet life's challenges. If you're just surviving rather than thriving, then it's time to embrace the warrior archetype, live the warrior ethos, and ascend. If you are a veteran, first responder, or someone looking to take charge of your life, find your tribe, and then be the hero of your own story, this podcast is for you. Join Mike Kinney and Matt Hastings, two retired U.S. Army officers who served in U.S. Army Special Operations and Army Aviation units, as they share with you optimal performance practices they learned in their time with the Military and Warriors Ascent, a 501c3 nonprofit that helps veterans and warriors with PTS.
Well, all right. Welcome to the Warriors Ascent podcast with your hosts, Mike and Matt.
Hello.
Yes. So, again, season 3, here we are. So this episode, healthy boundaries. I'm going to quote Robert Frost, one of my favorite poets, right? I'm going to attribute it to him. I'm pretty sure it's him. Good fences make good neighbors, right? So having those healthy boundaries, very, very important. So I'll start off by asking, if you ever found yourself in a situation, or really I'll say more specifically, do you have friends, acquaintances, coworkers, whomever, that just kind of drain you, right? It's drama all the time, you know, and you're like, oh my God, every time. Eeyore, right. From, Winnie the Pooh, right? Yeah. No, where, you interact with these people and they don't fill your cup, man. They empty your cup, and you're just like, oh God, man, I don't want to be dragged into this drama. And then there's the converse, which is, hey, the people that just are always very upbeat. They fill your cup, people that you like to be around, guys like our yoga guy, Kerry,
right?
Who, he comes into town and he's namaste, my brothers. And you're just like, man, Kerry's just got a good spirit. He's very positive, very upbeat, very complimentary.
Brings good energy, yeah.
He brings good energy, right? Again, and I'll quote Oprah Winfrey, where she says, you're responsible for the energy that you bring into this room, so be mindful of that. But, we all know people that we love to be around. And then there are people that, quite frankly, you're just like, I don't want to get sucked into your drama, right? And it's just always drama and negativity, right? So we've said before, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So be mindful of the people that you're spending the most time with, right? Make sure that they're positive. So all of that being said, what's the best way to do that? I would say healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries. So what's your experience? What are your thoughts on the matter in terms of who are your 5 people and how do you deal with difficult people?
I think that's right. And I would say that sometimes one of your people has a bad day, bad week, and they need to be down in the dumps and talk to you, ask you, and that's what some of that relationship is. But normally, even an average of that person would say that they're more good energy than they are negative energy. To me, that would make it more about how often would I hang out with that person, or how often, but some people are just super important to you because they're that one person you can tell your inner demons about to and all this stuff. So I don't know. I never really knew the whole 5. That I think that's a pretty interesting concept to say you're a sum of the 5 people, because you do need to balance it, or the average, yeah. So you need to balance it out by having the upper people, but like the people that are sometimes too disgustingly happy all the time. Again, it's like, gosh, can you?
Unbridled optimism, kind of like naivete. Yeah. I mean,
look, can I be down for a minute? Can I say something cynical for 5 minutes? I don't know, but I don't really have that. But I think is pretty cool concept to just balance you out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not at all saying, you need to divest yourself of anybody that's negative or has any level of negativity, and then surround yourself with these naive, hyper optimistic, Pollyannish yes men that like the world is great. It's just like, hey, I love life. I got it. But there's some bad stuff out there too. I consider myself like a pragmatic realist. That's me. But, point being, you want people to kind of, level you out where, you get the people that are going to tell it to you straight and be like, all right, hey, here's the deal. And then the people that are like, hey, no, it's all going to be good, man, that are very optimistic and clearly. And I'm not saying, and then you need people in your life that are, pessimistic downers. I'm not saying that at all. It's just be mindful of the people that are in your life, and you may have no choice in the matter. It might be, like I say, wife and kids and this and that, but a relative, maybe it's a coworker. You spend a lot of time working, right? And maybe it's a coworker that, man, you spend 8 plus hours of your life per day, a 40-hour work week plus at work. And guess what? If your boss or your, whomever.
It's hard to do.
They might be in it. You're like, oh, geez. So then how is it that you mitigate that or manage that?
I mean, you would have to have some sort of a hobby or some sort of thing that just brings you pleasure when you're not at that location of work, go fishing, go whatever it is, to go to nature,
to kind of offset
to balance,
that, or to realize it. No doubt, something that's recuperative, restorative. That is definitely a technique, but I've got good news.
Yeah.
I've got something. I've got something that we can talk about to kind of help navigate. Number one, again, as my friend Brian Johnson from Heroic will say, know the game you're playing and play it well. So half the battle is knowing the game, and then knowing how to play it is the rest. No, but I'm going to introduce a concept, a rubric called the Cardman Drama Triangle. So Dr. Stephen Cardman, MD, is the one that's come up with this. And I want to say it was back in the 60s. Don't quote me on that. So for those that want to do further research, they can do so. But clearly this isn't my construct. A man,
Mike Cardman,
much more erudite than me, has developed this. But what he'll say is in personal interactions, especially the dramatic type, you've got really 3 personas, right? There's the villain, the hero, and the victim. And most people find themselves in one of those roles, which is very, very interesting. And I'll say in retrospect, I look back, certainly not in my life, in totality, but I'll say certain circumstances, certain instances, certain chapters wherein you're like, oh yeah, I was definitely immersed in that drama triangle, whether as the villain, and we had this discussion, the villain and the persecutor. I mean, I'm usually pretty good about not playing the victim. Everybody to a degree will go, why did this happen to me? Why can't people just do this? Why is it? And then I'm pretty good about like, no, man, I got to get out of that. I got to boom. But I'll admit that I think everybody spends some time in that victim mentality. But as a leader, officer, whatever it might be, that you
have to get that out of your personality.
Well, there's that, but then the villain or the persecutor holding somebody to a standard. My experience has been sometimes, no matter how diplomatic you are, when you're telling someone something they don't want to hear, sometimes, man, you're labeled as a villain or a persecutor. And sometimes if you don't handle it well, maybe you are. If you're like, all right, man, I'm tired of your crap. I've had enough, and you lose control, or you're just tired of it, you can be perceived as that. And then there's the hero or the rescuer, usually a third party. And they're the ones that they're going to be the intermediary, the interlocutor, whatever it might be, that comes in and says, okay, I'm going to solve this problem. Or they come in at somebody's behest or assistance that, you can't do that, or, you need to be this way or that way. And oftentimes, they're trying to play the hero to ameliorate, whatever drama, stress, or tension exists, in the relationship, and make nice, and hey, they just want peace. But oftentimes what they're doing is they're mucking stuff up, man, because it's like you've only got one side of the story, or you're not seeing everything. You're weighing in on someone's behalf. Have you even considered my part of the story, or what it is that I'm trying to achieve, or the things that they're not doing? And more often than not, it's like, oh, no, I'm not. Yeah, so you're really not being helpful. Have you ever been in any situations like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, as a person who it's happened to me, and I've watched it happening to me, where, especially in a combat situation where you're about ready to go do a mission, and it's going to be dangerous, and there's potential that people are going to die, and it could be you, and they're trying to get you to do it anyway, or you're trying to get the rest of your team to do stuff that, well, nobody wants to do things like that. Like, I don't want to go face danger that I might die right now today, but somehow you've got to deliver this, like this is the things we're going to do, and get them to do it with you. and that is, to me, like you said, sometimes people push back. Well, why? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing it that way? And it's like, sometimes the answer is because I said so. Because we planned it, because there's contingencies based on it, because there's a whole lot going on,
That's right.
And so to me, that's one. And I mean, you have an opportunity to be to several things there. Like, the way you deliver that is very important, like we're talking about.
Right. Not being abrasive, being firm. I mean, to handle this, again, very adroitly, it's an art, but it's necessary. Mm-hmm. And to your point, I mean, one of the things about this is you can find yourself moving roles as well. Oh, yeah. So you can be the perceived villain or persecutor, right? Where we'll use, being a leader as an example. You make the call, you make the hard call, you, give somebody an Article 15, or you hold someone to a standard, or maybe in your case, you ground somebody, right? Mm-hmm. All right, hey, you're not flying, you're unsafe, and I'm just throwing that out there, and they're like, that's not fair. And you're like, no, man, that was a big mistake that you made. That wasn't a minor oversight. You could have downed that aircraft. So boom. So in some people's eyes, you're the villain. What? That was, in other words, that was just way too much, exactly. Right? That was way too much. Their oversight didn't call for something that extreme, as an example, right? Mm-hmm. So they're playing the victim. That, and you, in your mind, you're like, no, that's clearly, you need to rethink what it is that you're doing.
Right.
The rescuer could be maybe the battalion commander, and he's just like, Matt, man, we need our pilots. We need our pilots. I need all my people, and that's this and that. And you're like, sir, I'm the instructor pilot here. I'm the head guy. That guy's unsafe. He's going to be a liability. He's going to get somebody killed. Now you've got that third party hero rescuer coming in saying, no, I'm going to make peace. And why don't we just agree to this and that? And here's the interesting thing. Now he's putting pressure on you. Now you start becoming the victim. Because you're like, sir, you're putting me in a bad spot.
This happens. Yeah. This is where
you're putting me in a bad spot. I'm trying to uphold a standard.
Right.
I'm trying to make sure everyone's safe. You're putting on pressure. You're putting pressure on me to overlook this. And now I feel disrespected. I feel like I'm not being backed. And now you're the victim. And you see how now all of a sudden, depending upon your perspective, things change?
Well, you'd have to be a chameleon. So, like, for instance, I'd go in with the boss, close the door, and we'd argue, and I'd lose sometimes. Mm-hmm. And he'd tell me the answer, and I didn't like the answer. But he'd say, turn around and execute, move out. Right. So I would, and I'd go out to my guys team, and they look at me like, all right, you killed it, right? We're not doing that. It's like, no, we're doing it. What are you talking about? How are you letting him do that? It's like, I lost, guys. Then instead of, like, I could switch over to the victim. You know what I mean? I could say, these guys are dumb. They don't understand, but we're going to be in trouble. But I didn't. I just said, we're doing it this way now. And I was told that's called carrying the commander's water, And sometimes you don't want to. And sometimes it's like, I think it's a terrible idea. And people look at me like, I can't believe you're allowing this. And it's like, one day you're going to grow up and get this job higher up and realize I'm allowing anything.
That's right.
Just like anybody else, I'm commanded to do this. And I'm trying to take this to you and soften it up.
Right.
So that you'll get in these aircraft and go do this dangerous job in the manner in which we're told to do. That doesn't seem super smart to us.
And understand the whys.
There's a lot bigger whys than you don't realize.
That's right.
Outside of our parameters. So just do our piece of the pie, you know, and I remember being one of those younger soldiers looking up to the CW4 going, why are you letting him get away with it? You know, and it was the same things like, shut up, Junior. And they didn't give me this, you know, hey, we're doing it because that's what we're, you know, so you have to mentor somebody who's going to take that next step one day so that they're prepared for this, you know? I don't know. But you can switch between the hero. I mean, I think this is a way to manipulate people in a way by switching personalities.
I think people naturally find themselves in different positions based on, again, perspectives. So, you know, say hypothetically, the person that you grounded, they're the victim, you're the persecutor. That's their optic. That's their perspective. I'll say the battalion commander comes in, he's thinking he's going to assuage things, make it better, and just say, no, hey, you perceive that as, now I'm being I'm the victim here because, hey man, you're making me look bad. I'm trying to uphold a standard. You're not backing my play. You're putting me in a bad position. You know, so then there's that. Yeah. So those are all, you know, that's, I'm not going to say, I mean, it's a bad position to be in. It's interesting to watch and understand and see, okay, well, I think I understand the roles. I think I understand the perspectives. The question then becomes, well, how do you navigate that? And it just so happens we've got, you know, something that's, I think, pretty decent, you know, in doing some research. People will say, you know, I mean, number one, hey, if you're not careful, this is the realm of, you know, the emotional and the reactionary, right? And
not the best way to move out is emotional and reactionary are already two things behind the game.
That's right. I mean, you're always going to be emotional when it's something like that. Hey, hey, this person, you know, they've been grounded. They can't fly, you know, until they get reevaluated or whatever it might be. You're emotional because the battalion commander's questioning your judgment and he's now superseding it. And you're like, hey, that's BS, man. And then that, you know, being reactive versus responsive, right? And there is a difference. The reaction is that visceral, hey, that's bullshit, right? Responsive, you know, responding, you know, like, all right, let me think. Let me mull it over. Let me understand. And then very deliberately go, all right, I get it. I understand, right? But people will say, you want to be, you know, again, more of an observer, more towards, you know, towards the center of the triangle. And for me, I'm like, what does that look like? And then I happen upon, you know, the TED model, right? The empowerment dynamic. And that is by a guy named David Emerald, wrote a book, The Power of TED, where he looked at the Cartman drama triangle and said, well, if we were to, I'll say, adjust those roles, you know, how is it that we would go about extricating ourselves from the drama triangle, which was my question. It's like, well, if you feel yourself ensconced in that, what is one to do other than just realize, all right, I'm the persecutor. Well, crap, there's nothing I can do about that. Or, you know, hey, I'm the victim, or, you know, whatever. His recommendations are as follows. So you'll see in each one of these roles, people have a choice, right? In terms of how it is that they can transcend those roles, which I find to be very helpful.
Yeah, it's super helpful. Now I'm already seeing it.
So in terms of the victim, right, they can go from the victim to the creator. And he says, you know, focusing on vision and desired outcome, take full responsibility, right, for initiating action to achieve their desired outcome. Bottom line, we'll use the downed pilot or what would you call that? Not a downed pilot.
Well, yeah.
Somebody, you know, they've been suspended for heaven's sake, you know. But, you know, that guy needs to, at that point, go, all right, clearly, Chief Hastings saw that I wasn't safe, that I've done the wrong thing, and I got to take ownership of that. So I may not like it, but he's the guy with the 5,000 hours of stick time, man. So clearly something is amiss, and I need to own that. And I may not like it. I may feel that maybe that's drastic, especially in a combat theater. But I can see what he's saying. And if I were to bring an aircraft down, that would be calamitous. That would be horrible. So I need to take ownership, and I need to go to him and just say, hey, listen, I own it. What is it that I need to do to remediate that? And I'm certain you would say you need to do the following, and you need to demonstrate to me a level of competence before I'm going to let you back in the air. Boom.
Gosh, a person came to me and said, I take full responsibility for not knowing something. I'm going to step number one, but it's not something I heard from a lot of brand new warrant officers or brand new lieutenants.
Because they're trying to prove themselves, because they feel it's an admission
it's a mature thought.
Right. Well, and I mean, I get it, in terms of people are making, their careers.
Yeah.
And showing, admitting fault. A lot of people thinking, hey, it's showing weakness. No, versus, all right, no, I got it. No, I remember being in a shoot house. I was on an SOT team, and my team sergeant was, Sephardic instructor. So Sephardic is, CQB school. And I was fresh out of school. We're doing our, flow drills and all that stuff. Boom, boom. People are in their position. And I pulled a shot, and it was my 18 Delta. He was moving in, collapsing in on his sector. And the team sergeant was just like, whoa, hey, sir, that was close. Just a couple feet, And I'm like, no, I felt comfortable making that shot. And he was just like, no. You shouldn't have made that shot.
You don't get to be comfortable
and for a little bit, I'm like, no, man, I'm good. And then you realize it's just like, and he's the pro. He's the pro. I was the student, man. I just fresh out of school. I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. And at that point you realize you're like, he's like, I'm going to have you sit out this next iteration, do some, dry fire. And I was just like, all right, man. Hey, that's the way of it. You're the dude. You're the guy with the experience. If you feel that way, then I'm not going to second guess that. I'm going to go and do the drills, and then I'll get back into the rotation once, And that was that. That's just the way of it, man.
And then what happens is you pass, and instead of being a problem, you've passed, and we've done a good thing. We've turned a bad situation into a good situation. That's
right.
I like the action that we can take.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So then there's the challenger, right? And that's from the villain and the persecutor, the challenger. So sparks learning by challenging assumptions, and the status quo focuses on improvement and development by holding people accountable for taking action. So in your case, you're like, no, you need to do the right thing. You need to make some changes. In my case, my team sergeant's like, nah, sir, hey man, you need to practice more, reevaluate, go through, dry fire.
Then you come back.
Then come back, and there it is, and you're like, all right, man. It wasn't like, hey, sir, you suck.
Yeah, you're fired. You're this and that.
It was just like, hey, I think that was a little bit close.
Yeah, that's why we're trained.
That's not a shot I would have made. Let's retrain. We're not going to do that. So that was the challenger. That wasn't the persecutor. Yeah. That was him just saying, here's the way of it. Yeah. And this is why, and this is how we're going to make, here's how we're going to make it right. And then third party coach. In your case, I mean, if you had a battalion commander that was kind of weighing in, now here's the difference. Empowers people through inquiry to gain clarity. My experience has been with a lot of the rescuers. They come in and they really don't know the full situation. They're getting one side of the story.
Always.
And that just has always annoyed me. It's just like, I'm not an idiot. I've led organizations before. You're coming in, you're getting one side of the story, and you're not making a well-informed call in some cases, and that's the stuff that you're just like, On the other hand, is in the case with the battalion commander, in your case, it's maybe the opposite. Maybe it's like, now, Chief, you're not seeing the full story. And I'm going to coach you in terms of what it is that you're not seeing and how I'm going to,
here's a bigger picture that you didn't know about.
That's exactly it. I'm going to inquire and say, okay, hey, got it, understand, but let me, let me kind of, I'll say round out everybody's thinking,
Yeah.
you know, and that to me in terms of a rescuer is the best is where, all right, before I come in and muck stuff up, let me really get a tally of what truly is going on.
Because have you ever been a rescuer and then got burned?
Yes.
Exactly. So I remember that coming in, just shutting the door on a company commander and just like letting them have it because you're not giving this person a chance and this person, this and that. And I want to be the person to get, here's a solution that I'm willing to do. And then it's like, you done? Let me tell you the real story.
Right.
And then
let me tell you the rest of the story of why.
Are you serious?
Like, oh my God, I feel like a dumbass.
Oh my gosh, I'm a dumbass because
That's
I
exactly
didn't,
it.
excuse my language, but I didn't know the truth, you know, and it's like, you go back to that person and be like, you gave me a partial story.
That's right.
And I put my professionalism on the line and
That's right.
like, luckily I was coached,
Right.
you know.
Right. So you come in as the rescuer, again, without the full story. And yeah.
Well, and that's how you learn. So next time that scenario comes and I'm in this position and they come in, here comes the rescuer. And I'm like, come here, let me show you something.
See that
you got burned here, and I'm not going to beat you up over because I was burned once too.
That's
or
right.
5 times or whatever.
Now you've got the empathy because now getting back to this introspective and responsive. So what you're striving for is to, all right, I'm not going to react. I'm not going to be emotive. Let me really see things for what they are.
Right.
Let me truly understand the roles. Let me transition, from those, we'll call them the lesser roles, to something a little bit more enlightened. And it's the case that, that you pointed out. Now you can kind of be at that meta level, kind of above it all, above the fray, and be like, I'm not going to fall prey to the same BS again. I'm going to see it for what it is. And the other thing too is also calling it out, and when I say calling it out, not being, quit being a victim, quit being a whiner, but when you see it for what it is, you're like, all right, man, hey, you can get past this.
Yeah.
You're a good pilot. You just made some errors and I saw a trend that I didn't like. You can get past this. Don't play the victim, man. You're a good pilot. I believe in you. There it is. Right. The Challenger, same thing. It's just like, no, man, hey, you're not a draconian jerk. You're upholding a standard, and that's cool. And, fully understand that, and the coach is just, all right, let me get the full story, man.
Yeah.
Let me not weigh in the middle of things, muck everything up.
But chances are there's not all factors out on the table.
That is exactly it. And I'd say the better you play those roles, and identify, what's what, that I think is probably the clearest and best way of avoiding the Cardman drama triangle. Now, that said, right? So I'll say our parting shot in terms of this is one, avoid the drama triangle in as much as you can. And some of that might be getting back to our 5 people, and I know it's probably unrealistic, but don't be around. I mean, we all know people that's all it is. It's drama. They're not very self-aware. It's everyone else's fault. And no matter what, you're going to find yourself there. So avoid that as much as possible. But even with the best of people, especially alpha types that are like, no, I will achieve, I will do this, I will do, you might find yourself in there. But avoid the triangle as much as possible. Extricate yourself by transitioning, right, as we showed, from victim or villain to rescuer to creator, challenger, or coach. So transcend that, but you've got to be able to call it out, so that's important. Last thing I'll say, and I think we've all been in situations like this, and I'm not at all going to say that when in situations like this, I've always handled them exceedingly well. There are times when, you just get abrupt, you get hurt, you're curt, you're like, all right, I'm tired of this BS, quit playing the victim. And it's just like, so I'm never going to go and say that when immersed in that, I've always done it well. But there are times I've had experiences, and I'm sure you have too, where if people aren't willing to make that transition, that no matter what, they're going to play the victim, no matter how much you explain it to them, no matter how much you explain that, no, I can't pay you for not coming to work.
Yeah.
Oh, but I need the money.
Didn't work.
I don't really care,
right.
and I don't care how many other people feel sorry for you. and want me to pay you for not working, I can't do that. I am not willing to do that. I'm explaining it to you. You're not listening. You're not understanding. That fine. We need to then part ways. So that's that. So, you need to decide whether they're on your team. I'll say particularly your 5 people. Maybe if people like that exist in your group of 5, they need not. So
the group of 5.
So that's it, brother. Parting shots.
How about 5 people go share this with 5 people and help us grow?
That'd be
That'd
wonderful.
be awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, man.
Boom.
Boom. Hi, Matt Hastings here, sending a thank you for watching this episode of the Warriors Ascent podcast. We strive to build a community of warriors made up of our nation's veterans and first responders. And to reach as many of those in need as possible, we need your help. Please just smash that like button and comment or share our content. Warriors Ascent is a Kansas City-based nonprofit that aids veterans and first responders with PTS. I went through this effective program and want those that are struggling to find what I found. Check us out on our website at warriorsascent.org.